seems to have some new wacky, crazy reveal, but, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just an old school Chucky fan. I'm somebody that grew up with the original films, and I kind of like Chucky to be a little bit more straightforward, a little scarier, a little bit more simple, but that is far from where he is today. So, with that being said, let's talk about the episode. So we're back at the Catholic school, the little prison, if you will, for all of our main character kids, and they're continuing to try to figure out what exactly is going on, what Chucky's plan is. You have good Chucky that has been cornered by buff Chucky, and the episode immediately starts off with a fist fight between those two characters that, despite the fact you can tell that they're all doing practical work with puppeteering, which is impressive in and of itself, I thought it looked a little bit hokey for me, but then again, just the tone of that statement in and of itself, buff Chucky versus good Chucky, is not necessarily something that I'm on board for, so it was fine. They did a little fight, good Chucky reigned supreme, and did a little crucifixion attack on buff Chucky to where he later came back in the episode, so obviously he's going to continue to be a threat. Still curious on how the hell the dog got buff in the first place. I don't know if we're ever going to get an explanation for that, but I don't know. That's one of those careful what you wish for things with Chucky, is sometimes you want an explanation for how does that work after so many years of established lore, and at the same time, you don't necessarily want the answer. And the interesting thing that starts off with this episode after good Chucky fights buff Chucky is that Jake is very sympathetic towards good Chucky and is protective of him and treats him like a little kid, or treats him like as kind of a surrogate for maybe his foster brother that got blown up in the premiere. And so you immediately have this split to where Jake is nurturing this character, and Devon despises this character and doesn't trust him for understandable reasons. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm Team Devon on this one. I don't give a shit how cute he is. I don't give a shit how nice he is. That's Chucky. He literally destroyed our lives. He killed parents and uncles and all this stuff, just laid waste to our entire family in season 1. I would never trust that doll and never want to be around it. So I totally understand that. I don't know if I completely buy into Jake completely being the paternal figure for good Chucky, but I understand where they're going with that with his foster brother. At least that's how I read into it. But yeah, now you're starting to see a split in their relationship a bit, to where Devon's like, what the fuck, dude? And Jake just doesn't even want to listen to him. You also had some nice development between Lexi and Nadine, to where Lexi has been struggling with this drug addiction all season long, and Nadine's kind of the new person in the group, and so they form a bit of a strange friendship, a bit of an unlikely friendship here, and Nadine kind of encourages Lexi to dump her pills, and, you know, they hug, and I liked that. You know, Lexi's a character that was an extreme hard sell in the season 1, to where they were just so good at making her despicable in the first half of the season that, for me, they struggled a bit with making her sympathetic in the last half of the season because of how much of a bitch she was previous. And so this season, while she still maintained that Lexi attitude, she certainly hasn't, like, reverted back to being a bitch to the main characters. And now that you have her kind of having this bit of a relationship with Nadine and opening up more and softening more, I think it just adds to her character being one of the more interesting and certainly better developed characters in the series thus far. You have Devon that's, you know, set aside because old Father Sawa found the crucifixion buff Chucky and isolates him, makes him read the Bible, and you get the scene where he's reading the Bible, he gets to the part of the text that kind of demonizes homosexuality, and he starts tearing out pages of the Bible, which that writing was pretty much on the wall. Like I said, I know that in certain forms, Christianity and homosexuality don't necessarily get along in certain parts of the country, certain parts of the world, and so I figured that was going to be the main thing that they were going for with the religion theme this year, and especially since for the first couple of episodes, it really felt like the only development that Jake and Devon were getting was that they kind of had to hide their relationship because these people aren't going to understand, right? And so that's something that didn't really propel the plot forward for me, because that's kind of been laid on pretty thick thus far, but nonetheless, just another nugget of anti-Christianity, or at least anti-Christianity that hates on homosexuality, which I get. I just hope we get more with Jake and Devon. You know, the development of them kind of being at odds with each other is interesting, but I just feel like the storyline regarding those two characters specifically has just been really slow and just crawling all season long. I mean, we're 5 episodes in, and I would almost include Lexi in this if it wasn't for the fact that she had the thing with the bully, and now with Nadine, that there's just not a whole lot going on with these characters. They're stuck in this school. and Chucky's trying to do something, and they're trying to figure out what Chucky is going to do. I mean, that's 5 episodes. By this point in the last season, Chucky had already revealed himself to Jake, had killed Jake's father, had turned Jake into a semi-murderous person trying to kill Lexi, and had him moved in with his aunt and uncle, and then Chucky revealed himself to the other characters at the party and tried to kill Lexi for him, and then now they're working together. I mean, there was just so much more development, so much more plot going on with these characters last season, to where this season, as much as I'm kind of turned off by the extreme campiness, all of the storyline is on the Jennifer Tilly side, not really the Chucky side. And speaking of that, you did get a return of Meg Tilly, which I really enjoyed seeing this episode. I always loved her back in the 80s, and so seeing her back last week as well as this week has been really fun. Seeing her interact with Jennifer Tilly, or who she thinks is Jennifer Tilly, was really interesting. So I enjoyed seeing that. I liked seeing more of a solo Glenn, and kind of getting more into Glenn's headspace, because I feel like Glenda kind of was more the star of the show the last episode. You kind of get where that character's coming from more than you do Glenn, having the nightmares about the doll and having the nightmares about events of Seed of Chucky and trying to figure out who his mother, their mother, really is. And so I didn't dislike the Jennifer Tilly stuff this episode. It's still extremely campy. It's still turned up a lot, but it was still entertaining. The one thing that I don't know. I'm not going to say I disliked it, but it was kind of like meant to be this huge shock, and I was like, oh, really? Is where they revealed that the original Tiffany doll from Seed of Chucky that Jennifer Tilly's soul is inhabiting is still alive. And there was just, the axe chop in the head is just sewn up. And so that's the first time that we have seen this doll since the end of Seed of Chucky. And I don't know. Again, that's kind of a weird, wacky idea that came out of nowhere, where I'm like, so what does that do? Unless Jennifer Tilly is going to triumph over Tiffany by the end of this season and get her body back and really send Tiffany into a frenzy, which time will tell where we're going to go this season. I don't really know what the point of that addition is. It's to the point where this season really does feel like a sequel to Seed of Chucky. I mean, so many things that they're exploring is in the tone of Seed of Chucky. You got Glenn and Glenda coming back. You've got Jennifer Tilly, just the character of Jennifer Tilly being kind of a major piece of it. Of course, now the Jennifer Tilly Tiffany doll coming back, and so it really feels like after so many years, Don Mancini's like, okay, this is the time. This is where I'm going to make Seed of Chucky extremely important to the lore of this franchise. And I just think by nature that's going to divide all of the fans, because I don't expect a lot of people to have the same opinion that I do, but I really dislike Seed. I've given it so many chances. I've tried to let it age. I've tried to kind of look at it through fresh eyes. It just doesn't work for me whatsoever. And so having a season that seems to be geared towards legitimizing that movie, it just, I don't know. I don't want to say self-indulgent, but it just feels a little bit self-sabotage to a certain degree, because you have a lot of people, a lot of fans, a lot of critics, a lot of casual fans of the franchise that do not like that movie. It has its fans, but a lot of people do not like it, and so when you start throwing in those flavors, I just feel like you're going to lose a lot of your audience. And from what I've seen in the comment section and on Twitter, that seems to be what's happening with a lot of people, while a lot of people are loving this season. So just one of those things. Like I said last week, it's one of those creative expressions that's not going to appeal to everybody, and I just don't know how I'm liking the really hardcore Seed stuff. So I don't know what's going to happen with the Jennifer Tilly doll, and the whole thing about her basically just being enslavitude for chocolate. That's part of the Seed of Chucky humor that just it's too juvenile for me. It doesn't make me laugh. She was sneaking away to eat chocolate in Seed of Chucky because she was, people were calling her fat, and she was like, no, I'm not fat, and she was going off to the side. I never interpreted that as a chocolate addiction. And it's very weird to have like an addiction theme going on with Lexi, and then poke fun at addiction with the Jennifer Tilly, like watching Liar Liar and arguing with Glenn and Meg Tilly, and then turn around and have the Jennifer Tilly Tiffany doll have a chocolate addiction. Kind of mixed tones here, exploring a pretty serious subject. But you have all of that, and where the episode ended actually kind of won me back a bit because I thought it was really cool. Where you have them following these breadcrumbs, these pictures in the cell phone, and so you have Devon and you have Lexi that go off into the woods, and I love the visual of like the sacrificed or the dead Chucky woods where you have like Chucky heads and Chucky arms, and it was very cool. It was very like Evil Dead, The Witch kind of styled stuff with Chucky stuff. So I really enjoyed the visual of that. You get to this cabin, and lo and behold, Andy's alive, which I was not surprised with. I would be shocked if they killed off Kyle last season or if they killed off Andy at the beginning of this season. So I don't know if that shocked or surprised anybody, but I was pretty sure they were going to reveal those characters in the second half. So Andy's alive, he's bearded, and he looks like he's bound to this table, and he's been immobilized for some time, and you have the bald Chucky doll, which I assume is the same doll from the premiere, but it could be another doll, kind of playing mad doctor on him, and, you know, cutting into his muscles and stuff, and so pretty gnarly. I don't know, poor Andy can't catch a break, but a gnarly direction to end the episode on, you know, more of the darker, fucked up stuff that kind of appeals to me, I guess. I don't know what that says about me, but it really brought me back at the end and does have me curious for where the next couple of episodes are going to go now that we're starting to see more pieces of what's going on, still with having zero understanding of what the actual plan is, but it was the same way last year up until Junior killed his father. We didn't really know what Chucky's plan was until it just visually showed us, so I assume we'll get something similar to that this week or next week. So overall, it was an episode that was fine. You know, overall this season, I'm just kind of flatlined in my emotions with it, to where I might not even review this season or this show next year episode by episode. I might just do a season review because I don't like being negative, and I don't like having to be negative week to week. And so if they're going to be taking the series in a direction that just doesn't really appeal to me, while I'm still going to be watching it, while I'm still going to be crossing my fingers that it kind of crosses back over into the stuff that appeals more to me, it does get a little bit grating and redundant to every week turn on the camera and be like, okay, well, this was a little too goofy for me, this was a little too silly for me, I don't really care for this, but... And so that's not enjoyable for me. I'm sure it's not enjoyable for all of you that are watching that are loving the series. And so we'll see where the season goes, but that might be what I do next year if this is the direction the show's going to go, because it's just, it's not going in the direction that I would prefer it to go, and that's fine. I'm not the one in charge. I'm not the one who's writing it. I'm not the one who's directing it, so who am I to say where it should go? But that might be what I do, is do a season review next year instead of week to week. But this week, it was fun. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed this, please click over here for all